I left my father's bank to really look to how I can align all of these things into my own personal theory of change and what I wanted to accomplish in the world. And like a lot of people, I thought for an instant, or for a bit actually, that I wanted to run away from what I knew how to do and look for that next thing that would help, change the world for the better. And what I came to learn was in the world of green building, which I had this orientation toward, and I knew some folks within at that time, people didn't really understand finance very well, or organizational infrastructure very well, and I had exposure to that.
This is the Regenerative Real Estate Podcast. Revitalizing the world together. Welcome to the Regenerative Real Estate Podcast. This is your host, Neil Collins. It is a show that is supported by our work at Latitude Realty. In it, we explore our natural and built environments and how they can be used as a force for good. The show sets out to inspire impactful ideas, meaningful change, human wellness, and ecological restoration through interviews and easy-to-digest conversations. Our guests range from industry leaders to iconoclasts, from both well-known figures to everyday people leading extraordinary lives. This is a show for people looking for education and inspiration on how real estate can be done differently. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Regenerative Real Estate Podcast. I'm excited. I've got Aaron Fairchild, who is a co-founder of Green Canopy Homes. He's also the CEO of Green Canopy that's based out of originally Seattle, but I know that you're doing work in our neck of the woods in Portland, Oregon, Aaron. And why don't you just introduce the company to the listeners first, and tell me just generally what you do and your mission, and maybe how many homes you've got. But then I really want to get into your backstory before we go too far into the mission and the philosophy of the company.
Well, I guess maybe just to orient folks to Green Canopy, we're a for-profit company that has a deep commitment to our mission. Our mission is we build relationships, businesses, and homes that help regenerate communities and environments. The company itself is organized to deliver against that mission, primarily through the world of real estate development and residential real estate development. So, multifamily, row house, townhouse, for sale and for rent product. But deep green net zero energy product. We're an investor-backed organization. We have 70 outside shareholders and growing, and outside board. So there's some, a deeper layer of sophistication applied to the business model as a result of outside investor participation and outside board governance. We also are manager of real estate funds. So we manage, we're currently on our fourth real estate fund, the Cedar Fund. That fund is committed to developing only net zero energy ready assets, and when possible, aligning that to affordability. So as an example, in that fund, we have a really cool row house project in one of the Seattle's richest neighborhoods of opportunity, Ballard, right in the heart of Ballard. And we're renting to families that earn 60% of area median income and 80% area median income. And that's a net zero energy ready row house, beautiful new construction project. Can't always do that. We also have projects on the other end of the spectrum that are also deep green, but market rate product as well. We try to align to sustainability and affordability and kind of take a portfolio view of that. Some that are deep affordable, some that are market rate, and then, with spectrums in between. Growing that. In the cities of Seattle and Portland, we have sold 3 times as many net zero energy homes in those 2 cities combined. So not a lot has been done over the last, or prior to the last 20 years, but over the last 20 years, we've actually tripled the number of homes sold in those 2 markets, net zero energy homes sold in those 2 markets, which is, interesting, sort of. It's modest on the scale of what's needed. And in fact, it's minuscule. It's kind of like peeing into the ocean. But, it's what we need to do in order to slowly, or as quickly as possible, transform the market to consider, issues of climate, resource scarcity, and social justice within real estate. So that's a little bit about our company. Was that what you're looking for, Neil?
Yeah. And for all the listeners out there, you can see right away, this is why I was really excited to have you on, Aaron. It's just, we could go into a million different directions with that. I think what you hit on just with one of those things, amongst the many, we could do a deep dive and do podcasts all day long about this. But Aaron, I know that, let's back up. Your company was founded in 2008. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, 2008 is when Sam and I, my co-founder, and I started talking about that. I didn't quit my day job until the end of 2008. December 31st was my last day job, and that was at Puget Sound Energy and their conservation department. So I kind of I wanted to understand, energy and how our utilities think about energy from the belly of the beast, as it were.
December 2008. That was either the best time to start a real estate company or the worst time. But Aaron, you were, before you went into the energy sector. Let's start. Are you originally from the Seattle area?
Yeah. I'm not quite born and raised. When I was 2, or around that time, my parents came to Seattle. So since the early 70s, 1971, I've been here in the PNW, and I definitely consider myself a PNW boy, Pacific Northwest.
I'm curious. I asked guests a lot this question, but did you come from a family of builders or somebody in the real estate industry? Were you, did you come at it from that aspect, or is there a connection to nature and sustainability, and that's how you got into this?
Yeah, actually, it's a really good question. So kind of it's a 3-pronged approach, or maybe 4, if you will, but I would put like nature and social justice kind of into one bucket, and then entrepreneurship into another, and then finance into another. I started swinging hammers in 1988, so a long time ago, and I did it because, as many young men do, right out of high school, I didn't know what else to do. I was still thinking, and I had a friend whose brother was a spec builder, and he needed a hand. And so I dug ditches and moved lumber around the yard, humped 3-tab up to the ridge. And he kind of did everything. He was a jack of all trades. And so I learned kind of all aspects of building, worked with him for a couple of years, ended up going to college and working, driving nails through college. But then after college, I got a cultural anthropology degree, and with, sincerity and earnestness, joined the Peace Corps, hoping to, do what I can to help a world in need with a lot of ambition along that vein. And I went to Africa, Central Africa, and I built schools and teachers' houses in the heart of the rainforest. After that, I came back and joined forces with my father. He had started a local bank here in the Puget Sound, today called Pacific Crest Savings Bank. My dad is since deceased. But I worked with him for the better part of a decade, really learning the inner machinations of the world of banking. So bringing those three things together, this deep and unabiding commitment to service, and nested within a beautiful region in the country, the Pacific Northwest, together with finance and construction, that entrepreneurial outlook. In 2006, I left my father's bank to really look to how I can align all of these things into my own personal theory of change and what I wanted to accomplish in the world. And like a lot of people, I thought for an instant, or for a bit actually, that I wanted to run away from what I knew how to do and look for that next thing that would help, change the world for the better. And what I came to learn was in the world of green building, which I had this orientation toward, and I knew some folks within at that time, people didn't really understand finance very well, or organizational infrastructure very well, and I had exposure to that. So I kind of thought I was going to leave the world of banking, but instead I kind of brought that with me to marry with these skills of construction, and so formed Green Canopy with Sam. So that's kind of the backstory of how we got there. It was truly a leap of faith, and I think that's part of what is required of all of us if we want to transform the paradigm. Is how do you get outside the paradigm, but for a leap of faith into what hasn't been created yet,
Yeah, what a great background and genesis story. You said something, your personal theory of change, and I wrote that down and underlined it, just because I think that's a really special way to understand your own life and the impact that you want to have, and really orient yourself towards a mission-based existence. I'm curious. So you mentioned Sam. I watched a lot of videos of Sam, and he seems like a great guy. And I'm really curious, what was it that in 2006, 2007, 2008, in that time period, that brought you two together? And how did you start talking about, hey, we're talking about green building and sustainability, and maybe we can build a company around this?
Yeah. So it to make a short story long, I met his father in probably 99. Did a loan for his father. His father's a Lutheran minister. But he liked real estate, and so he would buy investment properties when he could and fix them up and that sort of thing. And so I met his father, and he and I got along really well. So we'd get together every once a month and have lunch and talk theology. And he started putting his son on the loans, so his son would get good credit. His son at that time was in college, and so I met Sam through signing him on some of these loans. And after Sam graduated with a degree in acting, theater degree, he came to me and said, well, hey, my father has, been able to pay for our college, not because he's a Lutheran minister, but because he's in real estate. He's got this thing in real estate. And I'd like to act, but I know I'm going to have to pay for my acting. And maybe real estate's a good thing to do too. And so he and I got talking. I said, there's this world of appraising where you can go and appraise. And I explained that. And I asked him if he'd want to ride around with an appraiser that I worked with at the time. And he said, yeah, it'd be good. And he rode around with the appraiser and he was hooked. So Sam got into appraising and it became an appraiser. And we started working together, in 2000, really, on loans and doing appraisals for my father's bank and that sort of thing. And so when I kind of came up with this idea and how I came up with the idea was through working with an organization called Craft 3 today. At the time, it wasn't called Craft 3, but helping the CEO, again, at the time, his name's John Burtis. He's also since deceased, but was an early mentor of mine. Craft, an energy efficiency loan program within Craft 3. I learned about building science, which, as just a code builder, you don't need to pay much attention to, and how to do energy audits on homes. I got really excited about this. I thought, oh man, perhaps we could change a market if we are developing homes that are deep green and then have miles per gallon stickers, essentially energy labels, energy audit labels for the home. And, people don't read inspection reports, but they do read miles per gallon stickers. So maybe that would have an opportunity to influence the market and change the market. And because real estate is governed by comparable market analysis, you have to, every property, whether it's income analysis or a comparable market analysis, the appraisal rules the day, and that's what gets you your impact multiplier. So a developer puts a product on the face of the planet. That product that the developer puts on the face of the planet is then used by other developers as they're assessing acquisition opportunities as a comp for what happens in a marketplace and how to align to that comparable. They all have to look at that comp and figure out how they are going to position themselves relative to the comp in the market that they're trying to develop. So if you drop a deep green comp into a marketplace, you're creating an impact ripple, a multiplier of impact that suddenly I don't need to build all the other homes to get them to start considering green when they're doing their development analysis, and to get other buyers to consider green at the time homes are bought and sold. So I went and talked to Sam. I said, I got this great idea. He's an appraiser. I need, this is what we want to do. And we talked two weeks later, and I asked him, what'd you think? And he said, well, it's all I've been able to think about. And so we hitched up at that point and started Green Canopy with this idea that if we crank deep green product, we actually can transform a market. And at the time, the number of certified green homes in Seattle, homes sold in Seattle, was about 7%, 9% a year. Today, I'm not taking credit for this at all, but we definitely participated in this. Today, it's over 50% of the market of new construction is built to built green standard or greater. Built green standard, you can go 3, 4, 5 star, but I like to believe that we were part of that market transformation through that theory that as we're dropping comparables into the market, that encourages other builders. We start paving a way and demonstrating that this can be done, and that creates an impact multiplier because one company alone can't build all the product.
Yeah, that's such an interesting route to see impact. At that time, were you thinking of doing new construction and infill, or were you thinking renovations?
Yeah, at the time we were thinking strictly renovations. It was a housing crisis of a different sort. We were in the middle of the Great Recession caused by, really fraudulent lending practices that cratered the whole thing. And we were able to get a hold of, really dilapidated homes. Like we would look for homes that you should tear down. We would try and find, fixers, and then we would do studs out remodel and try and control the variables by going studs out, and you can replace all the electrical, all the plumbing, and then do deep green remodels. Well, as the market started to shift, we couldn't get a hold of any more fixers at a price point where you could run a business, because homeowners started looking for value in the marketplace. There's not a lot of supply. We still haven't caught up to enough and created enough supply. So homeowners started competing with us to acquire this product. So we rotated our business model starting in 2014 to all new construction. It took 2-3 years to bleed out the remodels and bring in new construction. And in 2014, we also opened up Portland. So we expanded from Seattle. We haven't done any remodels in Portland. It's all been new construction. Yeah, it's all been new construction.
Portland?
Not everything should scale. Let's just start with that premise. Not everything should scale. And there's pitfalls with scale in terms of the dilution of mission, et cetera. But we firmly believe that if we are going to tackle the injustice in real estate and our climate challenges head on, we need solutions in housing that scale. And so we have established a process platform that enables us to weed out the inefficiencies, or not all of them, but weed out many of the inefficiencies in the development process, development design, feasibility estimating, construction process, so that we can layer in the higher cost inputs of deep green net zero energy housing. We believed at that time in 2014, we had just landed or established that process platform, that replication into a new market was essential to demonstrate scale and to create a platform that can handle scale in multiple markets. So we went to Portland with the expectation that it's a similar market size, similar climate zone, close enough to fly or train or drive down as needed. And we've built out a team in Portland. And it just was proximity. We wanted to go to Portland to begin a scale effort. And we've stayed in these two locations since. There's lots of challenges with the notion of scale and growing an organization. But hopefully in the next couple of years, we're poised to start now really getting after that expansion idea into new markets beyond those two locations.
Very interesting. Aaron, for the listeners out there that are not familiar with your designs in your homes, if you can compare that to, let's say, a code-built spec home to a Green Canopy house, what does that look like? What's the difference there?
Well, I first want to say, and I'm fond of saying this just so that we can all, assume that no one's riding on a high horse here. We all reside on the arc of hypocrisy somewhere. So I don't want to, you can't get off the arc of hypocrisy. In fact, it has an inverted relationship to the arc of impact. So if you just accept the fact that you're a hypocrite on one extreme or another, it kind of allows you to go into the space and not refer to code builders deplorably, and certainly to give yourself grace, because we can't take our green and our more sustainable approach as far as we want to take it all the time. And the art of impact is also the art of compromise along the way, and negotiation. So where we primarily differ, and we're all constrained by building code, international residential code as applied in Portland and Seattle, land use as applied in Portland and Seattle differently. These are different code and restrictions. We've built in Lake Oswego, which has a really kind of anachronistic code and very difficult to build in. But that limits the moves that you can make. However, at the house level, how we're able to really take our homes beyond code to such a high degree. We work in concert with our certifying bodies in Portland, Earth Advantage, and Seattle, Built Green, and the host of consultants that certify these these projects. We spent 9 months and 2 different outside consultants to help us identify the most cost-effective pathway to build net zero energy. Our first project, we did double studded wall systems, right? That prevent thermal bridging, and we've wrapped homes with rigid insulation. We've taken a lot of different approaches, and what we've figured out, and technology has come to, caught up with us, or with our desire, not with us as a leader of thought or anything like that. But blue skin technology is a wrap. It's a weather resistant barrier that helps seal up product really, really well. We don't do double studded wall systems anymore because we figured out actually you can hit the targets to get to net zero energy and net zero energy ready without doing that. If you take other considerations, that blue skin really helps with that. Flash and bat insulation, HRV, ERVs, all these things are not, typical to a code builder. Ductless heat pump mini splits. When we were doing those in 2009, 2010, no builder was using ductless heat pumps. And because we were intentional in our thought process, we looked at these and we said, we've got a choice. We could do forced air furnaces, ducted furnaces, or ductless heat pumps. Well, ductless heat pumps are way more efficient. And it turns out if you're building new, they're cost parity, if not less expensive to install. And now today, pretty much every builder that we know, even code builders, throwing ductless heat pumps in there because it's more cost effective. And then making sure that we are designing homes with enough solar capacity that you can land solar on the roof and offset the consumption of the energy consumption of the home over the period of 12 months. The other things that you will not see in our homes are fossil fuels. We don't bring natural gas into our homes, and the market has criticized us for that because people have a very primal attachment to flame and cooking on flame, and of course you get it like that. There is this, it's within us. And there's been a lot of marketing from our appliance companies and manufacturers to align to, hey, everybody needs a commercial kitchen in their house. And boy, those commercial kitchens look really good in your house. Maybe it's not a true commercial kitchen, but it sure looks like one. And they come with gas. Well, part of the flip side of that story is induction stovetop technology is actually better than gas. It's more efficient than gas. It creates a healthier home than gas. Doesn't off gas in your house. And it offers you more control than gas. There's a lot of work that we continue to do in the marketplace as we educate the market to that. But these are some of the things that differentiate us, and that we again take leaps of faith. I remember the first time we did not put in a kind of a fireplace. We had those alcohol burning fire, and then the electric ones that will show the little flame. And we thought, we said, this is ridiculous. We're going to stop doing that. And we're going to hope that the market views that favorably. And here we are, 10 years later, still building hundreds of homes. And we've built hundreds of homes, and we have 90 million in the pipeline today. So it takes work, it takes discipline, and by God, we are not perfect.
It's a
always
process.
Trying.
Yeah,
it is a process.
Hey everybody, this is Neil. We are going to get back to this great conversation in just 1 second. But I think it's fair to say that right now we are facing some pretty unprecedented challenges in the 21st century. I mean, you name it, environmentally, socially, economically, we've got some big problems that we need to overcome. And that's why, for me personally, and the people that work with us at Latitude, we want to dedicate our time and our energy so that we are not only working to put food on the table and a roof over our heads, but also make the world a better place. And so if you are at all interested in combining your sustainability values with a very powerful financial model of real estate, then I highly encourage you to check out what we are doing at Latitude. We are creating something truly special with a tribe of change agents that for now is working across North America. And hopefully one day in the future, with you coming on board, we can be working across the globe. So please check us out. You can go to www.chooselatitude.com, or you can find us on social media at latitude.realty on Instagram, and we are also on Facebook. Okay, let's get back into it. I think, from the regenerative side, it is I'm not coining this term. Another person named Adam Scrinsey that is out of the Bay Area with the Center for Infrastructure and Society talks a lot about it. It's about the process and not the product. Mm-hmm. And it really starts to come through with hearing your story. I want to go back and I want to just dive into the criticism that you've gotten from not putting in fossil fuels. I've touched on this for the long-term listeners of this podcast, just about what we see fossil fuel industries obfuscating the issue at hand, but we haven't been on the receiving end of building something with many zeros behind it without fossil fuels in it, especially for a market that is more attuned to gas ranges and things like that. Mm-hmm. How have you had to change, or have you changed your messaging and your marketing to overcome some of these sentiments?
Yeah. In some ways it's just kind of I'll share, we've done cooking, had chefs come in and cook on induction. And, because this is a primal, we are fighting something that is, I shouldn't say fighting, we're responding to something that's very primal within us, flame and food, cooking over flame. In the 60s, the marketing companies and 50s, pushed us to electric stovetops. It's great. You got the coiled electric, and, the suburbs of the 70s and 80s, and had, I remember as a kid, in a suburb, we coiled, that was the new technology. And then, technology caught up with cost structure caught up with, and so suddenly we can all start cooking over flame. And because there's this primal attachment to that, and there's a marketing machine behind it, what we try to do is create an emotional attachment or emotional connection to product through smell and sound as well. So, if you're coming into an open house or an open house that you want to rent, can we have smells that align, like cooking in the house? Can we have sounds that align to, us as humans, or to that primal quality within us that aligns to, good music or soft music, neutral music, but something that's inviting. And then, we do a lot of education with real estates and real estate agent community. And I know Earth Advantage does a great job of that down in your market as well, to really try and educate people to the benefits of not burning fossil fuel in your home. And when you say it like that too, it's just kind of like, wow, we do what? We burn fossil fuel in our house? Isn't that unhealthy? Well, it must be okay because we sell product that allows us to burn fossil fuel in our home. Actually, it's very unhealthy. It creates a very toxic environment within the house. So there's just a lot of education and a lot of forgiveness too. You have to also, don't despise, the conditions in which you work. You just have to try and, okay, that's the work. We're going to try and slowly transform these things. And, I'm not without, my own warts and pimples too. So I think for me, it's, trying to go into a market that is structurally aligned to fossil fuels and the burning of those within our homes and our environments, with a lot of humility and grace, and not assuming that it's got to be a certain way, but just providing good alternatives. And we've never installed gas lines to our homes. It's just not. It's just you started this conversation with, from a philosophical position. It's just a philosophical position. You don't want to yell and run around with your hair on fire telling people that they've got to let go of fossil fuel and stop burning gas in their home. Otherwise, you're going to turn a lot of people off. So, we try and be, gracious and forgiving with ourselves and others as we go into the work.
The design aspect of this.
Oh yeah.
I know you've got different townhome. I've seen townhomes and single family residences. I think you had mentioned multifamily. Are you doing designs in-house, or are you bringing an outside firm or multiple architectural firms?
Yeah, we have an in-house architecture firm, and that firm works with outside clients, builds outside clients, and works on our own projects. And we work with lots of outside clients. So Green Canopy has currently a development. We're a vertically integrated deep green real estate solutions provider. So we help clients find property, clients and communities find property. We have a partnership with, as an example, Habitat for Humanity. So we'll help find property. Right now, we're doing a 17-unit condo right on top of Capitol Hill that will hit the intersection of affordable home ownership and sustainability, deep green. And we design that in-house. We're designing that with our architects. And then those architects are, dovetailed in with an estimating and procurement team. So there's in the business, there's called the iterative design process. Well, that iterative design process rotates along with estimating and procurement. And so we estimate in feasibility, clearly, when it's just a site plan, so boxes on a two-dimensional plane. We will estimate what that costs. Then at conceptual, we'll estimate. Schematic, we'll estimate. Structural, we'll estimate. Intake, we'll estimate. So ensure that we're trying to feather out or eliminate is a better way to think about it is cost optimize. I want to say value engineer, but usually people refer to value engineer, either after they've gotten their permits or while it's in permits or once they've gotten their bids and, we need to find some savings. It's this iterative engineering process that we go through because it's vertically integrated. Now, we work with outside architects as well and love working with outside architects, particularly those that are really well aligned, because that helps improve what we're doing. We are always learning new things. But we also dovetail them in with our estimating team so that we will, when we're working with an outside client, we're estimating and helping that architect and outside client optimize that structure so that we can afford the cost of higher cost inputs into the.
We got to talk about these outside clients. So it sounds like you're not just doing spec work, but you're also doing custom work for different organizations and individuals.
Yeah, it's not custom. So we do not work for custom homeowners. Right now, 100% of our business services the Cedar Fund, this real estate fund that we manage, and then outside developers, investors, legacy owners of property. So today, we will partner with groups. For example, the Grow community on Bainbridge Island. It's a very large net zero energy community. We've partnered with that investment group to help develop out their third and final phase, the capstone phase of that net zero energy community. We are working with, institutional investor out of Silicon Valley who has hired us to design and be the general contractor for the region's first cross-laminate timber volumetric modular 7-unit row house. Deep green, highly innovative project that we get to partner on as a service provider. design and help bring this really cool project to the face. And then, other examples, I already mentioned Habitat for Humanity. We have an investor that we're helping on a 36 unit affordable housing apartment building. We work with, again, I mentioned it earlier, but the African American churches in our area through an organization that we're loosely affiliated with called the Nehemiah Initiative, and helping those organizations that own land, and actually that the Black church is the largest African American community landowner in the country by a lot. So helping this community landowner develop the property in a way that aligns to their community. So that whole platform of services we align and offer to that community, and different communities. So today we look very much like a fee developer. Many times people think we are the developer. When it's our own real estate investment fund, we create the structure of the fund to align to what we know we want to deliver, which is net zero energy ready product. And we have guidelines that align to our process. So it very much feels like we're the developer, but we are actually a fiduciary to the limited partners in that fund. And I think we've got about 40 limited partners in that fund. And it's got development capacity of about 35 million.
When did you start putting that fund together? Where I want to direct this question is for other people, let's say outside of the Pacific Northwest, that are aspiring developers. They're deeply inspired by deep green philosophy, and they're like, maybe they've done a couple remodels or even some infill projects, but how do you think that they can scale, and is a fund the right way to go?
Well, I believe so, for the reasons that align to my skill set and my experience. So I come out of, as we talked about earlier, kind of a world of structured finance and building, and so it to me that makes a lot of sense. But I don't have the corner on what is right for everybody, and we have helped other people. In fact, we're helping a Black-led fund manager right now develop a fund that has an anti-displacement strategy. Super cool. We've helped groups, and they're not the first, and nor will they be the last, that we help other groups develop funds. But again, it's all about, our mission. We build relationships, businesses, and homes that help regenerate communities and environments. So that's one avenue to scale. And I'm sure other people will find other avenues to scale, but real estate is a capital heavy, intensive, category. So typically just about every builder uses other people's money to develop property, whether it's a bank, debt, and or other people's equity, with some of theirs too. So capital stacks can look really interesting and cumbersome and complex on these projects. So as individuals are thinking about scaling, I would submit, or I would offer as a suggestion, keep your capital stack as simple as possible. Keep your leverage ratios low. If you're building for sale product, structure your finance in such a way that you have more options than just to sell. If you have enough equity in projects that you can rent as well as sell, you can go into markets with in a much stronger position and sleep better at night. So keep capital stacks simple and clean. And you are, as a builder, you're using other people's money to build, whether it's debt and or equity. So as you're thinking about using other people's money to help build projects, know that you're a fiduciary first. Be as transparent as possible. Let bad news travel fast. I have seen and worked on behalf of limited partners in funds that have gone into receivership to help unwind and help the limited partners capture value back. And it's an ugly, ugly scene. So I think that if anybody is considering starting their own fund, I would recommend to be, as thoughtful as possible and talk to other people that have been down that path and build in really strong governance, so that you can't get out over your skis, which is usually what happens. And what I mean by out over your skis, you get, you over lever, you bring in too much leverage.
We seem to be going through this ESG and impact investing heyday. Are you finding that when you're going out and fundraising that people are really drawn towards the impact side of what you're trying to do? Or do you still think that a lot of people are singularly focused on the bottom line?
Well, what I like to say is that, you have to make money. And for us, Green Canopy, we make money work for positive change. So that is, the bottom line is ultimately important if you want to create a self-funded mechanism that can create positive change in the world. So using business as a force for good requires that business to make money. So I think the impact investment community can, especially the RIA or the family wealth office, whether it's single or multifamily wealth office, but the single family wealth office tends to have a little bit more flexibility because it's just one family and they can talk directly to that family. But the multifamily wealth office has, I would say, by nature of the structures that they exist within, are myopically focused on the making of the money. And what they're trying to do is find avenues whereby they can make money and deliver market rate returns and how they're making that money that delivers market rate returns is non-extractive. But then now we get into the world of a very philosophical conversation, because if investors are always making money beyond the rate of labor, that means, and if we tax investment capital less than income, which we do, then you're always going to have the schism between, and an ever-growing schism between, the haves and the have-nots, which is what a lot of people point to the problem with the Powell Doctrine and neoliberalism and capitalism as a whole. I think the current fad, I shouldn't say fad, the current, and I really don't mean that in a negative sense, the current surge of ESG and impact investment, we've been riding that wave. We manage over 100 discrete investors and work with family wealth offices a lot. I think the current wave is good. It's positive. I think that the investment community continues to wrestle with what is market rate return and doesn't like to hear that market rates of return are just extractive rates of return. And I too have a lot of grace, because again, we all reside on the arc of hypocrisy. So you do not have to invest in trying to accomplish ESG. You don't. You can, buy oil stocks, buy, tobacco, but the sense you can invest in that way all you want. So those that are choosing to do an alternative pathway to generating return, I love them. I want to continue to work with that community, and together we learn, and together we can hopefully cause the paradigm to shift to be less extractive, more equitable, and certainly more greater equity of opportunity, and leave the world a little bit better than how we found it.
That was beautiful. I listened to a lot of podcasts and I'm like trying to go back 30 seconds to re-listen to that on this conversation of like, I need to absorb that a couple different times to really let that fully sink in. Which I do plan to do. I know that you're a B Corp, so you are like really trending with the impact investing, and your marketing is very well positioned for that.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, where are you trying to orient? What's the future look like if you've got a crystal vision of where you want to take Green Canopy, either through the design criteria or through the markets that you want to work in, or just the social aspect side that I'm really glad that we brought this up, because I wasn't even aware of really the structure that you had and the different ways that you're incorporating community and that business and community aspect of your mission statement really came out in this conversation. But I'm curious where your compass is dialed.
Well, I'll start it kind of, and it's not even an end game. I think it's a midpoint, but maybe it's the seventh inning stretch. We're going to go public at some point, so that's the seventh inning stretch. Now, working backwards from there to here, what we're trying to do is lower the costs of construction, speed up the time, so that we can afford higher cost inputs, more regenerative choices in building, and democratize green. So it's not housing for only those that can afford it. It's everybody deserves net zero energy lifestyles, just like everybody deserves to live in a community of opportunity that gives them close proximity to parks, health, shopping, groceries, transportation choices, great education. These are, and housing isn't an inalienable right. We all need shelter. So let's not put people in more toxic housing than we have to, and certainly than we know how to do. So for us, we also know that we operate in a very efficient market, and we operate in that efficient market where there are really thin margins. Now, this isn't 90% margins of software. This is a very different category, and it's anachronistic. So let's just give a real quick overview of real estate in general on the landscape of America. All real estate activity, construction, finance, all of that activity is about 20 to 25% of our GDP. It is the biggest wedge of our GDP. Our monetary policy is completely geared towards ensuring that we have a thriving real estate engine in America. So the opportunity is, it's a huge economic. Residential alone is a $550 billion a year market. That's the 27th largest GDP in the world. When you fold in industrial and commercial, 7th largest GDP in the world. Huge. And it is completely anachronistic, meaning it hasn't changed really substantially, significantly for, as long as we've been, building with sticks and bricks. So our desire is to lower that cost. We know that the only way we can really do that is by taking construction offsite and doing modular, prefabricated product and innovate in that category. Right now, we're merging with a startup construction technology company. We're merging that organization into our organization to kind of complete a vision of vertical integration, where we will start building product offsite that looks, you won't notice when you're on site, obviously, but that is designed to lower the cost and speed up the time. So we've got a labor shortage issue kind of across the board. We've got costs, commodities that are going out of control. So there's a lot of pain in the marketplace. And what we're trying to do is provide a solution to the pain that's aligned to our mission. So once we get through this merger and this next financing round, we're going to go pretty hard at this, and the world of cross laminate timber there's an incorporation into our strategy as we look forward, and that will have us hopefully in California and other markets outside of Seattle, Portland region in the next 3 to 5 years. And then from there, we want to make the leap to go public and continue to expand and scale, not just our construction technology, but our impact. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. I think the organizational development that's required to do that in your background, just, it's like a hand in a glove. Going in that direction, you make it sound probably easier than it is. And, I'm sure it's taken many years to get to this point. And it really shows. I've just immensely enjoyed this conversation. And I really hope that everybody can take the time to go check out Green Canopy Homes. Do you want to plug where people can find out more about your company, the homes that you have for sale, what's in the pipeline, or just wherever we can send people to learn more?
Yeah, well, I first want to say, the best laid plans of mice have men. I think that, the challenges of this time require us to have big vision, and to get after that with the earnestness that this sense of purpose commands and deserves. So we'll see to all of those plans that I said. And if you want to learn more about Green Canopy and seek partnership, or just thought partnership, you can find us at greencanopy.com. I also want to put in a plug for the Nehemiah Initiative. You can find Nehemiah Initiative. I think it's NehemiahInitiativeSeattle.com or ni-seattle.com. The Nehemiah Initiative is an organization. So if you care about social justice and the intersection of social justice and green in the world of real estate, go check out the Nehemiah Initiative. I could do a whole conversation that could last for days on the importance of the Black Church for American democracy, and our civil liberties and civil rights, and that extends out beyond the African American community, but it is an incredibly important institution within the African American community and culture as well. So I'm really proud of the work of the Nehemiah Initiative, and proud to call myself somebody who's associated with that organization. So I wanted to put in a plug for the Nehemiah Initiative as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I'm going to have to research the organization as well. Aaron, this has been an absolute delight. I know that everybody that's tuning in they're going to get a lot out of this, and hopefully they're going to replay it a couple different times, because there's just some beautiful nuggets in there as well. The one of the arc of hypocrisy is also one that I've underlined in my notes here. So thank you for taking the time, and thank you for the work that you're doing. I just deeply admire and kind of in awe of really all that you've been able to accomplish, and seemingly, a short amount of time, and to transpire a lot of change over the last decade. That's desperately needed.
Well, thank you. And same to you. I mean, Neil, what you're doing and what we're doing is sort of a collaborative effort here. And at the very least, hopefully, we're causing a little disruption to the imagination, the two of us here, and causing people to think a little bit more about the choices that they're making and the careers that they're moving forward in. Yeah.
One more great nugget. You need to start writing fortune cookie lines. You just got these awesome one-liners. All right, Aaron, thanks so much.
Yeah, take care.
Okay, everybody, that is a wrap. This is another just great episode that I'm so glad that you're able to tune in. And thank you for being interested in regenerative real estate. What we are trying to do is help people and planet thrive together by using the built environment as a catalyst. And so I've got a couple big asks for you. Number one is, can you please go to wherever you're listening to this podcast, leave us a rating and review. Those actually go so far. And since this is such a passion project for us, we really want to be able to attract the best thought leaders from around the world. Second is that if you really like the content that we're putting out, you can find us on our own Medium publication called Regenerative Real Estate. We also have a very active community on Facebook, which is called Regenerative Real Estate and Design, which you can request to be a part of, and we would love to have you. And third, this goes to what we do every single day, helping buyers and sellers demystify sustainability by working with people that want to either buy a property and are trying to figure out the financing of how do I actually live out my values? How do I put that water catchment system on there? Or how do I go finance a solar panel PV array? Or maybe I want to live closer to nature. And what are the properties that are out there that I can do that? And so we represent buyers like that. We also happen to represent sellers that maybe they've already invested in sustainable features. Maybe they have a living building or a LEED certified project. We want to help tell that story. So much of what goes on in the real estate industry is transactional thinking at best, and it translates down into agents just really don't know anything about sustainability. And for us, we think that the value is there, and we want to help highlight really the intrinsic value of it, not just the bedrooms and the baths and the square feet of what typical marketing goes on. So if you know of anybody that wants to buy or sell these kinds of properties that we're talking about, please reach out to us at Latitude, and be sure to subscribe for another great episode coming up next week.